So we're going to go ahead and just kick off a couple of things. I did want to, before we dive too deep in our conversation today, I was really curious about sort of what mentoring meant to this group. So I wanted to just take like a couple of minutes and wake everybody up on a Monday morning. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Brandy's going to make us do this. But I really would love for you to take like a minute to think about, is there a mentor that you had that was really impactful at some point in time in your life? And then, like, what sort of qualities did that mentor possess for you? So, I want you to take a minute and think about it. And I would love for you to share if you would like to share. And there's kind of a purpose to this, but just hang with me. Hang with me. One
I
knows
mean,
it right off the bat. You're welcome to go ahead and start. Oh, perfect.
yeah. So I had my supervisor when I worked at DWQ. He had a 2-year associate's degree, but he was the head of the Western office. And I did not want to go take my PE exam because I never really wanted to be a design engineer. And he forced me to with all best intentions and kindness. And we still have lunch together, and he's been somebody that I've looked up to, and he really made me step forward with somewhere I didn't want to go and to do something I didn't want to do that was really hard. And I really admire him for that.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure that just based on your relationship with him, you felt like sort of safe and supported to even take that step.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's wonderful. For those who are just tuning in, we're just sharing a couple of impactful moments from a mentor that you've had in your life. And so I'm just going to sort of round robin. Does anybody else want to share some impactful qualities that a mentor that they've had?
I think so. I wrote down a few words, and it was a guidance, direction, and then just like Planet Fitness, no judgment zone, right? So it's
Oh, I
at
love that.
least in my personal experience, it's like you don't know it all, so you come in fresh, and you're hoping that that person it's gonna be, uh, they're gonna understand where you're at and where you're trying to get, and there's not gonna be any like, oh, you should know this, you should do this. It's more like, okay, let's see how I can help you get to where you want to go, and I guess that's where that guidance and direction goes into. So yeah.
Wonderful. No, thank you for sharing that, Roger. I love that. And I didn't know that that was Planet Fitness's model, but I like that that's their
I think
model.
it
Yeah,
still
because
is. Yeah, yeah.
judgment around exercise is a thing. That's hard.
I'll talk a little bit if you want to. This is Vince.
Yeah, go for it,
So,
Mitch.
so basically, I think starting out with Soul and Water back in '09, I think some of my mentors were Chip Campbell and Jeremy Ralston. They were great. They were very knowledgeable, and all I can say is I had a lot of patience and learned a lot. And just they would work with me on different practices. We'd go out in the field. I hear a lot of people talk about with Soul and Water, like Soul and Water ends up trained in NRCS. That wasn't necessarily my experience. You know what I mean? My experience was NRCS trained Soul and Water, and that the reason for that is because I had a good DC in Jeremy, and then Chip, was very knowledgeable from working with the Forest Service, and he ended up teaching a lot of information, just on the fly. So, and they were some pretty cool guys to work with too, just in general. But that's kind of my experience with my mentors. They were very helpful, and if you had any questions, they were the ones that would always be there to answer that question.
I
It wasn't
love.
like, go ahead.
No, go. Finish your thought. Sorry.
It's just they were always there to listen to you and then guide you along the way. So,
I love that. So it just sounds like they were really helpful. They were really
yeah,
knowledgeable, and you mentioned patience. All really great qualities when you're looking to learn something new or something
absolutely.
what you're getting yourself into. Awesome. Love that. Thank you. Would like to
Oh
share
yeah.
something.
I have a couple
Yeah.
for sure working in the Wake Soil and Water Conservation District. A couple of my mentors there, Teresa Furr for sure, and then Tom Hill, definitely helped me to understand how to work with cooperators correctly, how to do field evaluations, site evaluations, and I think their characteristics were that they were obviously knowledgeable about what they did, but then also very willing to allow me to go with them to the field, always open to answering questions, providing feedback. I think that was their strong suits for sure. And then I like what Roger said about the non-judgment. Another mentor I had that I would consider a mentor was a farmer in Wake County. Caleb knows him. Terry Jackson. I went out there, didn't really know too much about tobacco farming, and he really, without judging me, really helped me understand and learn a lot of the practices that went along with it. And so him being understanding and willing to teach me was a big impact in my career for sure.
I love that. That's really cool that you also had that mentorship from like a farmer as well. That's excellent.
I don't know if he would look at it that way, but I certainly did. I went out there and didn't know much about tobacco farming, and he certainly helped me out.
Very cool. Excellent.
He
Thank
probably
you.
judged you, Josh.
I'm sure he did. In doing so, he helped as well.
Silent. Anybody else want to share?
I will, Brandy. Greg here. Can everybody hear me? I guess my experience on this, based on everybody on this call, is mine's a little different. I started out with the Soil Conservation Service in '81, and I had the opportunity to train in several locations, and that's something that the youngsters now coming on with NRCS don't do, not to the degree that we did. And what I look back was there was no pressure. My job in that location was to learn. And so I got to trail behind a couple of good DCs, a couple of good old contacts that were just brought you right along, and you kind of picked up if you're paying attention at all. Then I had a couple particular folks I'd call out. The ECS staff, young in my career, there was a guy named Emmett Waller who was particularly memorable. Roger Hansard on the area staff. Roger was a very good planner, can help youngsters kind of think things through and develop kind of a salesmanship kind of approach to things. He was very good. Another guy that worked a little bit under was Tom Christensen. He was a SoilCon, and I was in Cleveland County. And he ended up being associate chief of NRCS, but he was extremely smart. He could break things down, and he was highly motivated, as you might know. So I just had a good trail along the way. I was at my first DC job. I was 25, right in the highly erodible land thing. If anybody lived through that, you're like out of the frying pan into the fire. So after that's a blur. It's just a blur, but it's got a good folks under my belt. Time was good.
I love that. That's a lot of great people that you had in your corner. I love that.
I'll share real quick too, Brandy.
Yeah.
Pretty much the one person for me to kind of guide me this career path was my ag teacher. Was very involved in FFA and enjoyed just being outside, being around that setting. And then I was fortunate enough going into, in high school and college to kind of stay around the ag base. I had a job at a garden center that I loved. My boss man there was, look up to him still. And then now I get to work with Greg. So I'm pretty fortunate here to have that to look up to.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Peyton. And actually, I can't remember exactly when, but I do remember you talking about your ag teacher in the past before. So I love hearing that because you've brought up that person now twice that I've had in conversations with you, and I love that she made that deep of an impact with you.
Oh yeah.
Did anybody else want to share anything? Yeah, so I did want to take this 1 minute and I'll share something and kind of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation. You know, when I started off as a geologist, I, went to school and was like really passionate about it and knew I wanted to do disaster remediation of some sort. And it seemed like sinkholes was a great avenue to get into. And I was just really interested in the work. But lo and behold, my very first company that I worked for was very, very small. So we were kind of family oriented, I guess. There was really only 9 of us total. But I only really worked with 2 of them. And then there was like a drilling team, and they were kind of like their own kind of separate entity, but still great guys. But I will say my engineer and my geologist that trained me were just really helpful. And I think one of the biggest impacts I took away from them was their ability to share stories with me. They always took the time to share either stories about like litigations and trials, or working with homeowners, or taking good notes, or even like obstacles and failures that they had. And I just always found that to be really, really great. And I'm glad that I took every minute with them and absorbed as much as I could for the time that I worked with that group. Because I began to realize after I changed companies that that was sort of a unique situation. And although I've been blessed with lots of other mentors in different capacities since then, I realized that not everyone has access to good mentors, right? Like, I'm sure that you can think of, some of you might be even thinking, well, I'm not really sure exactly if I've had a mentor. And that's totally okay. Like, that is 1,000% okay, because whether you've had an impactful mentor or you're interested in being a mentor, you probably realize those traits that it takes to be a good person and listen to other people and to help guide others. That's why you're here on this phone call right now. So I just wanted to say, thank you guys for this. And we are working on like a mentoring program, and this sort of insights will help us move into that program. But all in all, I want you guys to get just as much out of this as the mentees will get from your guidance in this week. So I just wanted to share a couple of things. I thought that that would be a nice touch, and hope that you guys realize that you will also make memories and stories for other people, whether you realize it or not, because I'm sure the people you spoke about don't realize that you just mentioned them on this phone call. You know what I'm saying? So just, I wanted you to think about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into a couple of scheduling things. Does anyone have any questions about the schedule? I know I got an email from Peyton about what time to be there. And most of the full days, I'm going to ask mentors to be there at 8:30 a.m. And I'm going to send you guys a schedule after we get off this call. And then I guess that's not just the full days. I guess any day that it's Tuesday through Friday is 8:30. And then Monday, since we start at 1, I think I'm going to email you and request you there at 12:30. And that's just so that we have time to do our little check-in before we get started. Oh, I'm sorry. So check-in would be at 8 then. Sorry, because we start at 8:30 on Tuesday through Friday. So 8 a.m. for mentors for our early morning check-in. And we'll try to keep that brief. And I will try to have some breakfast items for the mentors. So make sure you still eat and grab your coffee, but I will try to have some kind of snacks for you also. Since we're getting an early morning start, I feel like that's the least I can do. And I have tons of spreadsheets and stuff to talk about what days you guys are going to be there. I did want to ask Caleb. Caleb, I think you had mentioned that you would try to be there on Friday and maybe alternate that for a different day. Will you give me an update on that if you have one?
Yeah, I'll be there Wednesday through Friday.
Okay, Wednesday through Friday. Wonderful. Thank you so much for changing that for me. I appreciate that. Okay. So then I will email you guys a schedule. I'm also going to email you guys a little mentoring guide, sort of just a little, it's like a 2 or 3 pager, a little information about the different things that mentors will be doing through the week. And and just a little brief tidbit about the conservation planning process. So if you guys would review that, that would be great. I also might email you a draft of the workbook. You won't need to print it, and the workbook will be the mentoring workbook. So I'm going to try to get that to you. If I don't get it to you, then I will for sure have copies for you. But either way, I will send you the information you need to know today. And I guess that's it. Really, I just wanted to touch base and ask the mentors to really, keep in mind of sort of I really want us to offer a great educational environment for these students to learn. We want them to get the most out of this week. So I really want the mentors, as well as giving your stories and your experience and your guidance. So just keep an eye on like making sure their, health and safety is good. Be mindful that if they look discouraged or they're having trouble with something, and maybe just do check-ins. We definitely don't want to give them all the answers and things like that. We want them to figure it out. But I just want to make sure that they are good and not getting discouraged, and that we're trying to keep them in a relatively positive environment, especially when we start getting outside, things are hot, they'll need water. We'll be around, and you guys will have walkie-talkies. We'll talk about that on those days. But if you need me, Ken and I will be available for anything that the mentors or the attendees need. We'll also be kind of help with carpooling different stations throughout the week, as well as Ken and I will both carry a health and safety plan on us at all times. So this will have emergency contact information. Hopefully we won't have to use it. But in the event something happens, please notify me and or Ken. That way we can help get the attendees if they need any medical attention. In that health and safety plan, the closest hospital will be mentioned, but also there will be a sealed envelope with everyone's emergency contact information. So in the event where someone is for some reason not able to verbalize that information, then that will be sealed, but we can break that open and have those things. So just laying that out there. Hopefully nothing happens. We had no issues last year, but just with, you never know, with bee stings or snake bites. That was a health and safety scenario we made really fun last year. And then all the attendees were afraid to walk around in the tall grass. So that was interesting and kind of fun, but we laugh about it now. So just keep an eye out for them, kind of thing. Does anyone have any just general questions about the schedule, the week, the attendees that are going to be there, or your roles as mentors? Roger, go ahead.
I just had a quick question on that, because I know it's at the University of Mount Olive Research Farm, but it's my first time going to that specific location. Is that at off of Garner Chapel Road?
Yes.
The
facility that we're using in the farm. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Sounds good.
Yes, and I will send you again just a clear information snapshot of your meals and an address and that kind of thing too, so you kind of know what'll be expected of that. Yeah, if you did the fundamentals or aware of where it was 2 years ago at the same sort of property, it's in a different building. It looks kind of like a garage.
Yeah, it's
like a packing facility, but it's actually very, very nice. So, but yeah, there's a gravel lot. We should have plenty of room for cars, but we will need people to be mindful and, not create crazy space in between the cars, be mindful of trying to keep the space even. Other questions, comments?
Randy, you get to be my mentor on mentoring.
Thank you, sir. I'm available for whatever you need. Darren?
What was the outcome of the cookout? Was it still going to be Monday evening?
Yes. Yeah. And DEA is going to support the Monday cookout. So we are covered. But thank you so much for volunteering to help out with that. I really appreciate that, Darren. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, Brandy, I know we had email on the side, but we currently are on hold for like travel and stay overnight, at least
Yeah.
us in RCS. So I'll be traveling there and back pretty much every day. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, because they don't want us to do any of that at all. So
Yeah.
so I'm flying low on this one, just trying.
This one. That's what I was kind of wondering. Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. Because I can't remember if your surveys mentioned the hotel or not, just in case, but I will note that you're not staying in a hotel. And for those of you who are commuting back and forth, we want you to try to meet those mentor briefings in the morning, but, we do understand we want you to be safe first. So if things arise, do not rush to get there, right? Like, be safe. We want you to get there in one piece. So, we can always check in with you or debrief you if we need to when you get there. Thank you for that update, though, Roger. I appreciate that. Okay. We'll be thinking about any other questions. We'll come back if you have any other ones. But I think sort of one of the big bulky pieces is for mentors to help out with some of the field and guide some of the activities. So I'm going to roll it over to Josh, and he's going to kind of talk about more about what that's going to look like, just so that you kind of have an idea before we get there.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the big days is Wednesday morning. We're doing I have it on the agenda as inventory resources. And so as it stands right now, I've got 6 stations lined up for that. And so let me pull up mine. So the one station will be just sort of general management observations in the field. The second is a cropping system station. The third station is soil descriptions. The fourth would be going through gully erosion calculations. The fifth, field slope characteristics. And then the sixth station will be pace calculations. So each of these stations will need mentors to man those stations, to be at those stations. I think we want them to be at mentors dedicated to each of those stations. So we'll have the groups of students or attendees rotations. And so we'll need individuals to be at those stations. So the first one, those general management observations, we're looking to just observe any conservation practices that might be visible in the field. Are there any general resources when we're talking about inventorying resources, like are there any roads or ditches or culverts that may impact the resource concerns or the planning? Some of the things that we observed, Brandy and I were out there 2 weeks ago. And so some of the things just off the top of the head, I mean, they're farming right up to the ditches. The roads are inches off of the ditch banks. There's some ditch bank erosion. There are culverts. There are roads that may impact some of the planning. And then there are spots out there, there are test spots out there that have varying degrees of residue management on them. So that would be right around where this station is. That would be something good to observe. There is a portion of the field out there for those that have been there before, where it is a seasonal high water table. There is some definite ponding and flooding going on, but yet they're farming right through that portion of the field. So those are some of that station would be observing, just taking those general observations and helping the attendees to see those and document those. Station 2, I have listed as cropping system. And so again, University of Mount Olive has a perfect situation out there where there are 3 adjacent fields that have 3 different types of tillage. So one is conventional tillage. They have a no-till field, and then adjacent to that, there's a field that is strip-tilled. So there are 3 opportunities out there to look at 3 different amounts of residue. And so the activities for that station would include residue management. So using a tape measure to do residue amounts, percent residue cover, and then row grades and row spacing. And so we will need 100-foot tape to measure the residue. I'm trying to navigate. I'm trying to talk and navigate windows on my computer here. Working out. I apologize. So we will need 100-foot or 200-foot tape to be able to do that. And then I think if we have just handheld tape measures to help measure some of that as well. So the idea will be to have those lined out in the field and talk about how to properly measure residue, how to properly measure spacing in the fields, and then just taking the observations between the different types of tillage. Station 3, we've got Edward Stevens will be out there serving as our soil scientist, and so he's going to have several different profiles. I think he'll probably pull them and put them in like a PDC so they can look and see what the different profiles look like, do a brief soil description, understand the different soils may impact management. Another good thing about there is you can stand out there and see across the landscape. You can see the different soils. You can see the very dark, wet soils. You can see the soils on the top of the hill that are brighter color. So he'll have a profile from each of those and help describe those. See, Station 4, looking for somebody to lead gully erosion calculations. And so there are some small gullies out there, but there are some ditches, I guess you could call them, whether you call them a ditch or gully erosion. I'm not sure where the line is, but there is a smaller ditch that I think we could at least teach the concept of how to measure the gully erosion and use the gully erosion computation worksheet. So actively measuring the length, the width, the depth, measuring the length of that, and then utilizing that gully erosion computation worksheet to go through and calculate those. So need somebody on that. Then field slope characteristics. I know we've got some engineers that are popping in for a couple days, and so this is where the engineers would come in to help with field slope. So measuring slope in multiple locations, whether that's with the laser level or planometer, and then measuring slope length using a tape. So we'll need equipment to measure slope, and then again we'll need 200-foot tapes out there to help measure. And then the next one is pace calculation. Sort of got the idea from Darren on this one. I think it is important for people to understand their pace. I think it's a useful skill to have. So having a known distance set up so people can walk their pace, calculate what their pace is, and then measuring a couple things in the field, a ditch that they can walk and measure using their pace. And then also we can set up flags to represent field slope length and have them pace that off. So teaching them how to do pace and then putting it into action by measuring a couple things in the field for that one. Go ahead, Darren.
Can't remember for sure. Did I send you the little template that I had made for doing the pace calculations and recording that?
Was that from the heavy use training?
It was.
It's what I designed it for, and then I didn't bring them that day. Yes, so it was from that.
I think you did look that up, because that would be a great thing to maybe put in the workbook or something. So will look it up, and if I don't have it, I will email you like first thing this morning. So just be on the lookout, but I will confirm or whatever either way.
Okay, so based on all of that information, we'll start thinking about what of those sounds like something you would be willing to or knowledgeable about participating in. And then second, if you can bring some of your field equipment, would be very helpful to help with each of these stations. So again, 100-foot, 200-foot tapes, survey rods will be helpful. If you have hand levels, clinometers, please bring those. I think between the engineers, we probably have enough survey equipment as far as instruments go. It doesn't hurt to have extra rods around for doing some of the other measurements.
So let me just take because I think what we're going to ask is for volunteers for some of these stations.
Yeah, if we want to get there.
Okay. Just a quick reminder for who has signed up for Wednesday. So let me know if this changes, but I have Teresa Furr, Peyton Lane, Darren Layton, Caleb Lippard, Chris Love, Robert Moore, Roger, Mark Seibert, Star Silvis, Edward Stevens, Josh, Nicole Warren, and Vivian Zahn.
Okay, that's great.
So we do have 4 engineers.
I didn't have that list in front of me. Man, I hope we have at least 6 people signed up.
We have coverage. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. This means there could be more than
1
if needed.
Yeah. So does anyone feel compelled to help out with some of these stations? Did any of them ring a bell to you personally that you'd like to do? And you would be leading these stations. Just, I mean, I think you made that clear, but just reiterating.
Jump once.
All right. Darren wants a pace. That tracks. I love that. Thank you, Darren.
I think either slope or gully, either one.
Yeah, I was gonna say gully for me, but put me wherever you need me. I'll be all right.
Slope's fine for me if you want to do gully.
Okay, that'll work.
And we'll likely have Chris Love and
we have Chris, Robert, and Vivian, as well as Star. So you can divide people up really however you feel the need. Star, I think that's probably appropriate. Do you think that makes sense? Just
yes, that's great. I mean, the engineers can figure out where.
Yeah, just think about where your people might be most useful and how many people you would need at Slope. And if we want to put them on another station, we can put Chris or Robert or Vivian somewhere else, depending on how many you think we'll need. We are looking at the groups are looking to be about 4 to 5 people per group. So just keep that in mind also.
Can you see the map with the stations?
I can see it.
And the activity listed.
Can y'all see it okay?
Yeah.
Teresa first said essentially the cropping system.
So that's 2.
Yep.
I put Peyton down for gully. So then we need, it looks like we have at least somebody covered for each of these other than the first one, the management.
General management.
Is there actually a slope there?
Back at station 5, there is.
Okay.
I mean, it's all relative compared to where you're coming from. We might be pushing 3% slope back there. That's more than the 0 that's everywhere else.
Let's see. We will have, Caleb will be around. Nicole will be around.
Did Greg volunteer for anything?
Greg is not available on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Greg.
Randy, I don't know if I am went through, but I don't mind helping on the first general management or soils, either or.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
You can just pair me with whoever needs help.
Okay.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, Randy and I, again, when we were out there, we walked and drove around the farm, and I have identified several different resource concerns out there, and I have created a map with those resource concerns identified on them. So when you head out Tuesday, those maps are just for the mentors to have, so you can guide your routes to these different resource concerns. And so again, you'll have the map with those, and so you can guide and we'll go over it. But Tuesday is just for identifying the resource concerns while we're out there.
Yeah, and one other thing I might want to note is Wednesday morning will be pretty long. So we plan to be out in the field the entire morning as needed, because we run that one a little tight to schedule. So we gave more time this time. So it might be a good idea to bring a chair. It's something that if you want to sit, and take a break or something, that it will take a little while for some of the stations to transition and stuff like that. So you should have time to break, and Ken and I will have plenty of snacks and waters that we'll be driving by and checking on you guys. So we'll make sure that you guys, and like I said, you'll have walkie-talkies as well. Any questions about this part? No? All right. Well, thank you guys for volunteering.
Yeah.
And that was all the main part, right? Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. All the other groups and stuff.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. And so we will be setting you up in like groups and group leaders throughout the week, and we will be changing your groups of students. But those are kind of, it's pretty self-explanatory. They don't really require a lot. In a lot of cases, you'll just be floating with your group and seeing if they need any help on the assignments and things like that. But we'll give you some guidance on those and let you know those groups as well. In some instances, we will have like leads for a group and then assistants. So you guys can just kind of decide maybe if one of you needs to take a break or step away for a minute, the assistant can take over and things like that. So we should have a few extra floating mentors as needed that can help out if you need to take a break or need to go take a phone call. I understand you guys are really busy. We appreciate your time. We want you to be as engaged as possible, but and you have work to do also at your own districts or your jobs. So if you need to step away, then we can make time for that. Just communicate with me and let me know so I can make sure we have coverage. All right. I don't really have anything else. Do you guys have any questions or thoughts, comments?
How many people are signed up?
21.
Okay. They have a great ratio.
Yeah, it is a good ratio. We were honestly hoping for more, so we do have a few extra mentors be hanging around, but this group will just get extra. It'll just be more sweet for them in that way. Like they will have a lot at their disposal and fingertips, so they'll get a lot out of it. So, yeah, for sure. And it is a good group. We do have a wide group. There's several, most of them have been around for about a year to 2 years. We have a couple of division folks, 2 of them with PhDs. We have a CREP individual. We have a regional coordinator. What was that? I don't know. We did get an email from someone with DEQ showing interest in wanting to come. So we opened it up to him, but he has not registered yet. So we might have a partner coming and we will see kind of how that goes. And if we want to continue to open this up to others, that's not really something we even thought or really discussed. But they found out about this and we're really curious about it. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. And then we do have a couple of individuals that are sort of fresh off the block, if you will, in the districts. One young lady out west was probably just hired within the last 3 weeks. So she's got about a month of experience. There's another gentleman that I think has been around for about 4 months. So we have a wide range and we'll try to group them in the best ways that we think they can be successful with some also attendees in their groups that might can also kind of help guide them through some of the things that are complicated if needed. So. All right. Other little plug. This week, I am planning on launching CET registration and the qualifications. And I think it would be really cool because we will hopefully be talking about this mentoring program a lot at CET. If somebody might be interested in doing a 20-minute presentation about your experience as a mentor for fundamentals. So I'm just lightly, gently putting that out there as an option because I think it would be really cool. And I think there's a lot of folks in Soil and Water that don't think of themselves as mentors. And maybe even to some degree, each of you have been in that place where you have thought, I don't know if I would classify myself as a mentor, but even with our conversation this morning, you guys possess a lot of those traits that your mentors showed you when you were learning. So I do think that there is something to be said. There's a lot of leadership capacity I would love for us to lean into. So just trying to empower our district staff more and more. So it would just be a 20-minute presentation, and then 5 of that can go to questions. So it'd be super short and simple. So just think about it. No stress, just as an option. All right, last chance for any questions. All right. Well, hearing none, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I cannot wait to see most of you on Monday. This is going to be super fun. We're going to have some good food. We're going to meet some great students, and it's going to be a really good time. And I'm really looking forward to all the communications that we will get to have with you guys, especially in the mornings and the debriefs in the afternoon. This is an ever evolving program, so we definitely are excited to hear your feedback and what better as far as this goes. So we're just really excited. We're ready to be there already. We'll see most of you on Monday. Let me know if
Thank
you
you,
have any
Brandy.
questions.
Thanks, Josh.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandy.
Bye.
Hey, Brandy,
Thanks, Caleb. Yeah.
So one thing real quick. I was about Thursday. There may be, I may have to come in a little later on Thursday if that's fine. I got a doctor's appointment on Thursday, and if that's okay with you guys. And I'm working something out on that Tuesday of the fundamentals. Trying to work it out with the county, because we got a department head meeting that Tuesday, and I'm seeing if they can just not let me go that day, and I can just go to the fundamentals training that day. So I mean, not it would just be that morning, and then I would just come straight up as soon as I got done. If that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, and those are your 2 days, correct? That we have
It
you.
is right. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think it might affect some of the things where I have you plugged in, but I will go ahead and kind of put those aside and just keep me posted. I can try to find some coverage. I think there was some conversations with is that the CP when we discussed the CP10?
CP10. Let me see if
Well, maybe it's this one.
Oh, working with cooperators discussion.
No. Where did I have you? I had you as a classroom assistant for one of them, but I thought it was like a relatively NRCS heavy one.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was though. Maybe it was Thursday. Is there an NRCS form on Thursday?
Is it CPA 52?
Inventory resources and managements.
Is that what it?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. Either way,
Yeah.
I mean that's in the afternoon, so we'll figure it out. Mitch, just email me once you think you know if you'll for sure go either way. That way I can make sure that we have coverage for groups and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I really am looking forward to this. I really appreciate you both asking me to do this. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. But,
all right, Mitch.
Anyway,
we'll
y'all
talk
have
to
a
you
good
soon.
day. Okay.
You
all
too.
Right.
Okay. Bye.
Yes, sir. All right. Bye.